Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So let's begin our next panel of the day. We have our guest, none other than Nikhlesh Mathur, sir. Sir, I request you to be on stage.
Nikhlesh sir is an alumnus of NIT Rourkela and a chemical engineer by profession. Nikhlesh Mathur is currently positioned as Vice President in Kashyap Sweeteners Limited, Mumbai, a sorbitol manufacturing company of global repute, and has concurrently established himself as a published author in the fields of academic and creative writing. His debut book length publication titled Learning Chemical Engineering for Process Industries, published in the year 2015, reconciles his decades of industry experience with the objectives of academic writing. With The Storm in the Silence, published in the year 2018, he ventured into fictional modes of representation. With its deft portrayal of perspectives, psychological realist narratives, and a feisty female protagonist, Nikhlesh's debut novel has garnered excellent reviews and featured in Indore Literary Festival. His latest novel, In the Corridor of Coaching Capitals, published in November 2022 by traditional publisher Tree Shade Delhi, combines traditional realism with the experimental modes of narration to depict the vicissitudes of students' life. It's a fictional close of reality dramatized efficiently to sustain readers' interest right throughout. Other than his book-length publications, Nikhilesh's Avra includes scores of academic writings on popular education portals and series of analytical articles on scientific astrology in reputed magazines in India. In his free time, Niklesh sir likes to read, mind map his ideas into writing, and practice scientific astrology. Can we have a huge round of applause for our guest?
Good afternoon, dear friends. I would like to begin my journey at this literature festival by expressing my belief that everyone is a writer within. I think most of the people will agree with me that almost all of us are writers in some ways. And no platform can be better than this one at YathaKatha to cement in our minds that with some efforts, imagination, and dedication, we can show the world our creativity and entertain them with our fiction, movies, and whatever we can do. We just need to discover the hidden writer within us. I am Nikhlesh Mathur, a chemical engineer by academic qualification. I graduated from National Institute of Technology, Rourkela. So my profession is engineering and management, but my passion is writing and expressing myself. Now, how did this connect happen? I'll take you all to a very short journey on these aspects. You must all be knowing chemical engineering has got complex chemical reactions. So from complex chemical reactions to writing fiction, was it something like which people love to call chemical locha? Well, no. It was definitely not a chemical locha. I think the elaborate reports which are required in the engineering and management profession set the ball rolling in my case. So when difficult processes were explained by me in writing in a very lucid language, it made learning very easy for the people. And simultaneously it developed interest in me in writing. It's very strange, but it's true. My fondness for analyzing fueled my writing work, and I began to write more than what was required in the engineering field. And that was problematic for everyone where I worked, except me. So I preferred writing than to oral explanation. And very soon I started feeling that yes, I can write something bigger. Now, unfortunately, this practice of mine made me a bad orator, but it definitely helped me in improving my writing capabilities. So the moral of the story is, it's not just stories which can make you a writer. You can practice writing anything. Anything. anything which comes in your mind. Maybe something related to your subject, maybe something related to movies, reviews, anything. And suddenly then you will find one day that you can write bigger things, you can paint on a larger canvas, as they say. And then fortunately or unfortunately, one day astrology happened to me, and I don't know why, but I developed interest in it. I began to learn it academically. I learned it academically, and then fortunately for me, I started giving right predictions, and I started writing reports. I started writing articles, so that also made me go in the writing mode more. And I found that my reports, my astrological reports, motivated a lot many people, and they in fact told me that whatever you write comes out to be true. So I started writing good things. So that was how I came into writing. But writing articles and writing books, there is a lot of difference. I always aspired to have my name on a printed, bounded book. So that is what I longed for. So now the inspiration part. See how everyone gets inspired by something. So as far as writing is concerned, I was inspired by the stories. As a young person, I was inspired by the stories. It didn't matter what the language was. It also did not matter that those storybooks were not in my curriculum. I was in awe of the people who wrote stories, and I drew my first inspiration from the story writers. I used to think, how can they write stories? How they can connect events in the story? And that is what made me start writing. I used to follow the storylines, and then the movies. I used to see the movies for the stories. Of course, nowadays everyone will say that the movies don't have stories as such, strong stories. But yes, earlier there were movies with the strong storylines. I was more interested in storyline rather than the picturization of the movies. So you can say that I was deeply influenced by the story writers of the movies also. So my early writings, which I began writing apart from the articles, was like some plays. Wrote some dramas, some plays for my college. And when I came into profession, I got myself associated with some colleges and schools, and I wrote plays for their annual cultural function. And there was nothing very serious about it. All were very funny, and but fortunately they got me into the mode of writing very strongly, and my passion grew. So this is how my journey, began in the field of writing, though I continued to work in the engineering profession. And then one day I thought that since I wanted my name to be seen on a bounded book, so the best way I could think was to write a technical book, because by that time I had garnered a lot of work experience. So that is how, the thought came about the book. But the turning point from the writer to an author was not very sudden. It was a gradual transformation. And indeed, book writing is an obvious step after writing lots of articles. The question was what to write. And at that time, being a chemical engineer, with quite a lot of experience in chemical industries, I thought that I should write something which I do daily, on a daily basis in the factories. And simultaneously, I saw that the new generation which is graduating from the colleges, from the far off colleges, not the major ones, they lack a lot of fundamentals. There was a lot of disconnect between what was taught to them, and what they learned. And that is how I decided that I'll write something in a very lucid language, that the practical aspects of the chemical industries, so that the students can learn while they are studying in the colleges, what happens in the industries. There is a lot of difference between what is taught by the theoretical books and what is happening in the industries. So I thought that I'll write a book on chemical engineering, but it was a huge call. I mean, a book of 300 to 400 pages was beyond my reach to write. So first of all, what I did was I got myself rid from the targets, no dates till what I want to finish the book. So I just kept writing here and there. I thought that I am writing articles, different small articles. And then one day when lot many articles got accumulated, I happened to edit them, combine them, and then suddenly I found that I have written more than 200 pages. And that gave me a lot of motivation, and I pulled along. It took me a long time, but thereafter I completed a book which was more than 500 pages. So this was my first book, Learning Chemical Engineering for Process Industries. This was meant for the students who are in the college and for the fresh professionals, so that they can understand what they are going to do in the industries, because that is not taught in the colleges. We still don't have books which teaches us what is to be done when you are at the shop floor. Unfortunately, the education system and the books, etc., they teach us how to garner marks, how to improve our grades, but the real knowledge sometimes is missing. So that is what I wanted to fill the gap, and I was successful in filling the gap between the theory and the practice. It was an amalgamation of theory and practicals, and the book was accepted very well in the engineering colleges and by the fresh professionals. Now there was another turning point. After I completed 578, to be exact, pages of my book, I thought that you can't have a lot of liberty in writing technical books unless you are writing something for your research. If you are doing some research, you have the liberty of explaining, expressing whatever you have done in the lab or otherwise. But when you are writing something technically, on technical theories, you don't have much liberties. You have to stick to some norms, you have to stick to some definitions, to some laws, and you can express it in your way, but still your creativity cannot be expanded as per your requirement. So I was discussing within my circle about this, and then someone challenged me, if you can write fiction. I think the my first reaction was I cannot write a story more than 2 or 3 pages. But then it was a challenge thrown upon me, and I thought that I'll accept the challenge. And that is how I ventured into fiction writing. And believe me, when you write fiction, it becomes very easy to characterize people, because you find all the characters around you. You just have to select the topic. And the best way to select a topic for a fiction writing is to look around and pick a topic from the from the society itself. So that is what I did. It was very easy for me in that way. So can we have the next slide, please? So this was a picture of the book, my first book, which was published in Delhi in 2015. The next one, please. Next one. Yeah, this was my first book, The Storm in the Silence. Now, this is a women-oriented story, an amalgamation of 2 different ideas. One, a series of real events wherein some notorious people designed a system to sell medical college seats through illegal deeds. I think you must have heard that between 2015 and 2016, there was some issues in the state of Madhya Pradesh where medical seats were sold, and there was a lot of anonymity, and the right students didn't get the seats. They were really sold. So some illegal deals were done, and I combined this idea with an age-old scenario of placing hurdles in the path of a woman by both her family as well as the commanders at work when she ventured to make a career of her own and when she begins to rise professionally. So I combined the two basic ideas, added some drama to it to make it an interesting read. And that is how this book, The Storm in the Silence, got completed. And it was published in 2018. And it is still available. It is still selling, rather. It's available on Amazon.com. Yeah. Now, this is a great picture, at least for me. My fan moment with Mr. Ruskin Bond. I was called to speak at Indore Literature Festival in 2018, where I got to share the stage with Mr. Ruskin Bond. I interacted with him. I was fortunate there that I got a platform to speak as I got here at YathaKatha. And Mr. Ruskin Bond listened very keenly with his eyes closed. He generally keeps his eyes closed when he listens to anyone. And the truth is that when I looked at him and found him nodding to whatever I was speaking, I tended to forget what I had to speak. But later in the day, I had a good interaction with him, and he gave me a good guidance in writing book. In a very precise and few words. He is a man of few words as far as speaking is concerned. Doesn't speak much, but he gave me some good advices in writing. Very precise ones, yeah. So that was my first book, and the next one please. And this was my second book, In the Corridors of the Coaching Capital. This was published by Tree Shade Books, Delhi. It's available on Amazon.in. You must have guessed that the story is based in the city of Kota. I think every one of you must be knowing about Kota city in Rajasthan. Yeah. Famous for coaching and also infamous for some suicides, which is happening. Yeah. Very sad of it. Yeah. My story base is that factor only. Why so many suicides are taking place. And the sad part of it is that most of the students who come to Kota for coaching don't come willingly. Let me tell you. See, I belong to Kota, so I know I have lived in Kota. So I know the issues which are there. Many of the students don't come willingly there. They are sent by their parents, rather forced by their parents to study there and somehow get into IITs or AIIMS or medical colleges of repute. So the pressure of studying is already there, always there on the students. So that is the reason that they find it very difficult to cope up with the education system, which is fantastic there. So I based my story on that, though the basis is a very sad basis, the suicides, but then that's very disturbing also. But I have tried to make it an interesting read by combining an angle of supernatural power. I'll not reveal that what angle I have combined. You may have to read it to know about it. But it's a perfect material for a movie or a web series, and that I wrote it from that particular angle only. In short, you can say that it is a fiction very close to reality. Next, please. These are some of my reviews of the coaching book novel. The next one. And these are the appreciations I got from filmmaker Mr. Navkumar and Dr. Anand from AIIMS. And there were many others, but there wasn't much space in the book on the back cover to mention, so I picked these two ones. Next one. Now this is important, for the aspiring writers. Many of you must be aspiring to write novels, So what are the challenges which I faced rather? I think everyone must be facing, every writer, new or old, must be facing these challenges. And the biggest challenge is the writer's block. the challenge of writer blocks. There are some days where, what is a writer's block rather? Because writer's block means the ideas don't come into mind, they stop coming into your mind, so you stop writing. You are unable to write anything. So there are some days when you can't scribble even one sentence in the entire day. Whereas there are certain days where you can write pages after pages. So what happens when, what is to be done when you have a writer's block, when you are unable to write? The best way is to read. Either read anything what comes to you, or read whatever has been written by you. And even when you have writer's block, you must try to write. That is my advice to the new author, aspiring authors. Whenever you are under the writer's block phenomena, you must always continue writing. See, when we write, we always make it a point that we should be grammatically correct, our phrases should be correct, the spellings and all the sentence making should be entertaining and all that. But when you have a writer's block, it is not possible that you can write that way. So don't worry about the grammar, don't worry about the sequences, don't worry about the timelines. Simply keep writing. The editing can always be done later. Because when you are having a writer's block and if you stop writing, then it creates larger problems. You become totally blank out. So it's important that you keep writing something, whatever comes. And then the important thing is writing relatable content. Whatever, as an author, you have some responsibilities towards the society. You just cannot write anything. It has to, the reader has to relate to it, something. So when you write related to something which is happening around us, it engages the reader well. And this becomes useful for the society also. After all, every author has a certain responsibility towards society. So thought-provoking, something which relates to human psyche, maybe something which is unthinkable. So when you write something, it becomes permanent. You must understand that when you write something, it becomes permanent. Anyone can pick up your book at any time and read it. So you need to have some extra care at the time of editing your manuscripts. So this becomes a very important aspect for a writer. And then finally, the thinking of the readers while you write. It's important that you must know your readers well. Who is going to read your books? Who are those readers? You must think, while writing, you must think about them. That helps in navigating the flow of the writing. Sometimes it also helps in thinking through their minds. Important to think. You have many minds to think from. And the flow of writing increases. And lastly, the time management. Managing time is more of an art, I would say. It's not that only authors require managing the time. Everyone requires to manage the time well. So it's an art which must be learned in a practical way. And this is mandatory and even very crucial for people like me or anyone who is not earning from writing, is earning from some other profession. So that other profession also has to be given equally importance, if not more. So the best way to manage time, according to me, is to prepare a schedule, list out your activities based on your time, and comply with it as much as possible. And another important factor in this is give yourself time to think. There must always be a slot for thinking. Next one, please. Next one. These are some of my websites and video links and interview links which had happened earlier. Yeah. The next one, please. Yeah, right. Though I am too small in the world of literature as of now, but nevertheless I would like to share some advice with the emerging writers. We all have a writer within us and we all carry stories. We need to believe in this. Once we start believing in this, it becomes easier to write stories. And for writing, you need to read a lot. Develop a habit of writing. Read anything, but read to learn. Pick a story idea, gather information around it, and start writing. Add characters, develop the personality of the characters, name them accordingly. Name of the characters is very important. It helps the readers to relate to the personality of that particular character. Beware of the storylines. Readers are very intelligent. They will catch you if you happen to celebrate the new year just before Diwali. So you need to adhere to the timelines in your story. So keep reading your manuscript as you write. So that keeps giving you the idea and you keep correcting it. So that's more important. I am still continuing to write. So my third book I am still in the process of writing, but I'll not go into the details, as I remember that Mr. Ruskin Bond had told me not to share the story ideas unless the book is published. But I can share a clue of it. Don't underestimate the strength of a deprived man. The Almighty has ways and means to make him fight, establish his supremacy, but still make him grounded when he crosses the limits. This is the clue for my next book which I am writing. Yeah, the story revolves around this fact. So finally, thanks. First of all, a big thank you to YathaKatha, Ms. Charu Sharma and her team for providing me the platform, and to all the amazing audience here who took time out from your busy schedule and gave me a patient hearing. Thanks from the core of my heart. And lastly, I beg to state that I am an engineer, I am not a good orator, so my apologies if something went wrong while I was speaking. But I will be glad to answer any of your questions if there are any. Any questions, please?
Okay, so sir, the first book you wrote, as you mentioned, it was in non-fiction.
Yeah.
So, and then you also wrote fiction books, right? So, like the transition, how did, like, fiction and non-fiction are very different, and the way we write and way we think about both are quite different. So, how was that transition? So, how did you overcome that?
Yeah, good question. In fact, what happened is I started writing a non-fiction book. I began writing a non-fiction because I was well versed only in chemical engineering, nothing else. That was the first reason. But I had a passion of writing, so I thought that I'll write chemical engineering book. When I wrote the chemical engineering book, I wanted to write another technical book itself. But you see, what I felt is that the liberties in writing technical books are very limited. You don't have liberties in writing technical books. Unless you are writing something about your own research, if you have done some research work, then you have the liberties to express your research work, analyze it as much as you can. But if you are writing something something deeply technical, then you have to adhere to the norms, you have to adhere to the laws, the rules, regulations, everything. So you cannot push around the matter much. You can explain it more legibly, you can write more about the experiments and all that. But basically the matter revolves in a very close circle, a circle with a very less diameter, you can say. But when you're talking about fiction, you've got all the liberties in the world to think and write. You have just to write it in a convincing manner. And lastly, I am working in a private sector, you see. And in a private sector, I am working in a particular chemical field. And I am well versed with that chemical field. So it is not ethical that I disclose so many things which I know about my industries, about the processes which I have developed myself along with my team in my organization. It's not very ethical that I disclose it in a book and let it be known to everyone in the world, and because that has a commercial implications also. So that also pulled me back. And as I mentioned in my earlier part of the presentation, that stories always interest me. I was in awe of the story writers. I used to see movies just for the stories, and I used to read a lot of books. So I planned, a challenge was thrown upon me by my close circle person that I should write fiction. So initially I was very hesitant because I thought that I'll not be able to write more than 4 or 5 pages. Writing a 4 or 5 pages story is something else, and writing a novel of 250 pages is something else. But then I took up a challenge without any targets. I mean, there was nobody was going to ask me if I had failed. So I was free to do anything. So I began writing. Fortunately, I could complete it, and when I completed the first one, it made me so happy that I thought that I'll continue with the fiction itself. That's how the transition took place, and that's how I'll continue with that.